Hey, here we are again for another episode of Code Utopia, where I'm sharing some interesting stuff while we make the graphic novel come to life. Right up ahead, we will talk about how our human brain and mind always look for ways to make sense of all the chaos that surround the experience of being alive. Yeah, I know, it sounds kind of heavy stuff, but I promise I'll do my best to keep it cool and simple, and then we can take a look on the updates in the graphic novel. So, let's dive into it. It's very common that we will find familiar shapes in the clouds, faces in the fire, or even in the surface of other planets. Because searching for patterns in images, sounds, or even odors is a natural function of most brains, not even restricted to humans. But what differentiates us from other sentient beings is the way we observe life through our thoughts. But when does it all start? If you believe in previous lifetimes, as I do, then this search for patterns emerges long before we're even born. But we can talk about reincarnation some other time. Nonetheless, the way the neural pathways begins to take shape is in the womb. So whatever our mother were thinking or feeling at the time they were pregnant, you were somehow perceiving it. And after we're born, it's through our senses how we learn about everything that surrounds us. You can say that making assumptions in our minds is a matter of survival, like getting to know the things that could harm us. And of course, this is something everyone learns at their own pace. So nothing wrong about making our own conclusions, right? But what if we're wrong? What if we have set our minds into something that is not completely true? Let me explain. During our forming years is where the brain is the most malleable. So whatever experience we have then, it will start to form the way we understand life. The problem with this, according to many studies in the matter provided by Dr. Gabermate, is that when we're kids, we think everything happens because of us. For good or bad, this is how most of us seems to feel when we're very young. Our brain begins to think in a certain way, but for every experience we have, we're putting on a filter, trying to make sense of all of what is happening in our worlds. For example, if a dog bites you, then the obvious conclusion would be that dogs are dangerous creatures. Do you think that's true? Maybe some of them could be, but certainly not the vast majority. But the trauma of being bitten will determine a reality where the doggies are something to be fearful of. The paradox is that since dogs sense and react to fear, they probably will help maintain that fixed reality. But I had the experience of working for a little while in a dog ranch alongside great people, and when I started out, we had to take care of over 60 dogs of all kinds, and I got along pretty well with almost all of them, except for a couple of crazy ones, and I'm sure it wasn't their fault, because I believe their behavior depends mostly on the way they are raised, just like humans. Having a bad experience could create traumas, and the problem is that they usually take deep roots in the mind. Combine that with imagination, and you have the recipe for nightmares. Sometimes it's our parents, brothers, friends, or the cultures that surround us that starts to make our minds for us. But worry not, because there is a cure. Well, I'm not trying to say that it's an illness to see the world from one perspective or another, but it's like watching YouTube from a peephole. You are just missing out on the infinite possibilities that every new experience can bring. Once you know that a tree is a tree, then every tree must be the same, so why waste your time and even notice them? That's when our mind plays tricks on us, making us believe that we have figured out things that we're just beginning to comprehend, like how they turn carbon dioxide into sugars and oxygen, light into energy, or how they are communicating with one another. So what can we do about it? One way to deal with this issue is expressing how you feel through the medium that feels right for you. Art is an incredible tool for this. You can dance, paint, write, make music, or whichever activity that makes you feel free. Therapy can work as well, but the medicine that I found to be the most effective is meditation. I've already talked about how meditation can help us get inspired, but another great benefit of this practice is that it helps the brain to release dopamine, a compound that makes us feel happier and also serves in the process of creating neuronal connections using different pathways. It's like instead of taking the usual road from your home to some place you often go to, you take a detour to see the ocean or a walk in the park. You will get where you're going, but you will have gained a different perspective on things. For the great master Goenka, meditation is a destructive process because it rips us apart from the fixed brain patterns we have constructed. His teachings comes from a rigorous practice of meditation called Vipassana, the Buddha meditation. We can look into it in another video because there's a lot to cover on that, but to keep it cool, I can say that it's just like removing those filters we talk about, to clean up the way we perceive the experience of being alive by looking with new eyes. It's a really fascinating process that allows you to get to know yourself in a profound way, and the more you do it, the more interesting it gets. I think meditation is for everyone, and it's a great tool that has the power to improve our lives, and by far is the best way to begin to understand all the chaos that surround the experience of living in this world. Combine that with imagination, and you have the recipe for good dreams. Actually, it's the best way to get in tune with the universe, but that's just my humble opinion. The good part is that you can try it for yourself, check out the different variations, and find the methods that suits you best. But I would recommend to follow nothing else but your heart, because you have all the power you need within yourself, and it took me a while to figure that one out. So that's why I wanted to share it with you. So how about you sit back, relax, take a couple of deep breaths, clear your mind, and feel happy just for being alive. And now, since we're talking about connecting the dots, that's exactly what happened when I started writing the second act of Code Utopia. It was a lot of work to get it done, mostly because the second act is usually the longest one. Since I've already written the draft for the whole novel, I was able to enjoy the ride by knowing where I'm going, but at the same time giving space for new ideas to get on board. Apart from some changes that I made, I found something very interesting when dealing with the secondary characters. I realized that I was naming them just by the role they represent, so my script was filled with character names like Soldier 4, Native 2, or Plain Shaman. Of course, I don't think you need to name all the characters that appears in the background of the story. Like that fella over there, I'm guessing is Boone 67, or that must be Valkyrie 41. But as long as they have at least a line to say in the script, it's better to give them a proper name. The reason being is that just by doing this, it immediately provides some traces of personality that serves when they need to say something. It's incredible. I even had to change some dialogues to match their newborn identities. The other part that I found worth mentioning is the need of focusing on what's important in order to move forward. That's why my plan of making videos while writing didn't work, because I needed to stay on target. In other words, to devote my inspiration to the writing process. I took the advice from Stephen King that I mentioned in the video 6 Ways to Get Inspired about writing 5 to 6 pages a day. The major changes that I made to this routine is that one day I write 5 to 8 pages because the page of a comic script has fewer words than the ones on a classic novel. And the next day I draw the layout of the pages and the sketches in the panels while listening to some music or an audiobook. I know that some writers just write, and that's great. I love writing because I'm drawn to it, but since comics are a visual medium, I want to see if what I'm writing will look good in the drawings. I quickly realized that I had to make several adjustments to make things work smoothly, like changing or suppressing dialogues, moving panels from one page to another for the sake of the design and storytelling, and sometimes the drawing asks for some changes in the script and vice versa. I think this way of working provides an organic communication between words and images. In terms of story structure, I gave this second act its own climax, because the biggest one works better in the third act, just to get that nice catharsis. The peak point in our second part is when our hero gained his powers after dealing with a lot of crap. His name is Leo, and I'm not making things easy for him. There needs to be a struggle, doubt, and uncertainty, and moments when he must act like a hero without having any powers. He faces death more than once before he's ready to be reborn for the third and final act. But after getting his superhero status, things are not suddenly resolved. There must be an adequacy and learning process. Some beloved superheroes do this very well, proving they are worthy of becoming something more by facing their deepest pain and darkest fears, to get to the other side and progressing as they go along their journey. It's true that making a compelling origin story is pretty challenging. Some of them are really well made and entertaining, some are just awesome, and in other cases, they just jumpstart to the kicking ass part ASAP, but that comes with a price, because some emotions are lost when taking these shortcuts. When you read, watch or hear a story of a hero that didn't go through the troubles and tribulations of life itself, as we all do, there's some lack of empathy in their journey. Although this is not a rule, because we can find examples of superheroes that have skipped any kind of initiation and have gained their superhuman abilities out of mere chance, luck, or destiny. What can I say? One of my favorite characters is Dr. Manhattan. So there you go, there are no fixed rules to follow. So please do tell me in the comments which one is your favorite superhero and why. Lastly, I would like to mention the importance of planting seeds. That means to establish some elements in the plot that progressively starts to develop their importance in the story. One obvious example that comes to my mind is in the movie The Matrix, when we hear this line from this fine gentleman.
My own personal Jesus Christ.
It's just a hint that Neo is a Christ figure, a chosen one, and Morpheus keeps on telling us just that throughout the movie until it happens. In Code Utopia, I use this technique to plant the seed of trauma, guilt, and the need for a psychedelic trip for our hero. And having this notion allows me to take care of the plot seeds along the way and make sure they come to fruition. And sometimes I'm just teasing by planting Easter eggs and characters that are shown once and will be developed across the saga. So there you go. Writing that second act was quite a ride, and there's still so much more to do. That's why I'm heading back to the cave to continue the writing and sketching process for the third act. And I have no idea when that's gonna be ready, but you will be the first to know. Just make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and I wish you a good one. Take care.